I want to play a clip of Morning Joe. And I want you to just take a look at the set. I just want people to see how, maybe this clip of Morning Joe is talking about the very people, or rather the movie is talking about the very people that you're going to see in this clip as it pertains to the real comet that is hitting our planet right now, this country. Don't look up, think about the pandemic. And now listen to Morning Joe Scarborough, as he discusses the fact that teachers want to work from home during the Omicron variant. Let's take a listen in.
If you don't want to teach, don't teach. Yeah. Quit. Just stay at home and stop teaching children, okay? Because when you set up that barrier to getting back to class, when healthcare officials say that you can still be testing positive 30 days after, well, you obviously, if that's your standard, you're either ignorant when it comes to science, or you just don't want to be in classes. And if you don't want to be in classes, that's fine. Listen, thank you for your service to our children. Now go get another job.
So in response to the union.
All right. So specifically, they're talking about the teachers union there in Chicago that organize a virtual strike or walkout. But ultimately, they're trying to get the ability to teach from home during a plague, during the Omicron variant that's 500 times more contagious. Sister Ford, I want to come to you first as a mother, as a professional, to have this man. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to set it up. What are your thoughts?
I mean, to insult people who are simply trying to protect not only themselves, but also our children.
That's right.
It's another level of ignorance, but again, not surprised. And it's people like Joe who perpetuate the polarization that this country is currently facing. There's nothing wrong with teachers deciding to say, listen, I don't want to get sick. I don't want my family to get sick. I don't want your families to get sick, because what are you going to do, Joe, when you send your kid to school and they come back with coronavirus and then you have it, and you have no idea until you actually go through the process of being a large family. And if one person gets it and then they get over it, 7-10 days later, another person in the family gets it. One household could be dealing with coronavirus for more than 30 days. And so while the science may not recommend that you take 30 days, there are some large households that need 30 days for that thing to circle through before everybody is clear from being on quarantine.
That's right.
And so it's just frustrating. And it's frustrating to see that our teachers, our educators who before this pandemic, let's be clear, were already underpaid and overworked, are now having to face the criticism from people like Joe. And he's not the only one, right? He's not the only one who are coming for teachers. But we just heard from the United Federation president for teachers, who said that about 30% of teachers are out sick right now. So who's sitting in for them? Who's sitting in for these teachers? And why not be more lenient and just let them work virtually, remote, like we did it last year? The technical infrastructure is set up for that. It's just that most Americans don't want to be inconvenienced with having their kids be at home, and then what that means for their own work schedules. And that now all of a sudden they have to play the cafeteria lady or the cafeteria man.
That's right.
And so it's time that America set aside this idea that everything should be fast, quick, and convenient, and start really looking at what is the end, where's the finish line on this pandemic? If we want to get over this pandemic and we don't want to be dealing with a new variant next year at this time, then maybe we should look at transferring things over and doing virtual learning.
Brother Mac, I want you to get in there, but someone noted in the chat room that Joe Scarborough himself may be working remotely, and I can tell you he is, because he's in front of a green screen. I've been doing this long enough to let you know he's in front of a green screen, and you know MSNBC don't have anybody there that's not masked and fully vaxxed. He probably has a camera set up in his home. The setup he got could be done from his home, Brother Mac.
Which is exactly where my statement is. The hypocrisy of it all is, what is Joe Scarborough making in comparison? You know, as Sister Fort said, these teachers who are severely underpaid, they're not just underpaid, they're severely underpaid. If indeed our most precious commodity is our children, then one would think that you would spend an exorbitant amount of money to place those qualified teachers, those very good teachers, in front of our most precious commodity to ensure that they get a good education. And instead, as we talked about earlier, our educational system is completely underfunded. And even within that educational system, the top end who are getting all the money are the principals and the assistant principals, all the administrators. But now when we talk about the hypocrisy, and as you so highlighted, Brother Ben, that Joe Scarborough is now sitting in front of a green screen. Instead of talking about the people who are underpaid, why don't you look in the mirror and talk about the people in your profession? What did Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon do? What happened with those brothers? See, they both came down with COVID. And when they came down with COVID, do you think that they had the place packed? Do you think that they still came out and did, quote, their job? Oh, no. Oh, no. They took a side from that. So who is he to now mandate at what level somebody ought to risk their life and the lives of their loved ones in regards to their, quote, profession? The hypocrisy, the ideology that he just espoused clearly shows you how those with resources think. You know, Joe Scarborough, look up, player, look up.
Well, you know, he's going to be on the ship, whatever ship they build to get off of whatever bubbles they have built, because you know they have bubbles. You know these people are not living life like, even they're hypocritical. Joe Scarborough is working remote. And you know that they are going to their parties. They're still having their parties, and they know everybody comes through that door has to be tested. There was a party in Martha's Vineyard where everyone had to have a 2-week quarantine and then get tested before you could come to the party. Right? Imagine having enough resources do some shit like that. Excuse me, Mom. Sorry. To do some stuff like that.
That's right.
And then turn around and tell a teacher whose light might be cut off, because, you know, teachers live paycheck to paycheck in this country. You got the nerve, Joe Scarborough, with your hair nicely coiffed or whatever, you know, looking like he just woke up and put a little mousse in it, to tell teachers that they don't know science and that they should just quit. And when his kids aren't even going to a public school, his kids probably have private tutors who come to his bubble and do whatever they need done.
See, his conversation would have been more apt if he had taken the position of, again, when we had a chance to get this pandemic, to get this virus under control, and we didn't, because you had so many anti-vaxxers. You know, let me hear him go after Kennedy as an anti-vaxxer. Let me hear him go after the Trump administration for their soup sandwich handling of this situation that has now brought us into, you know, going to a second year of this. Point that. But see, when you point at those people, do you really want to point at the Kennedy Scarborough? No, because you know they got the resources to come after you. Do you really want to go after Trump? No, you're afraid to do that. So the people in power that you could have gone after, no, don't choose to go after them. You're nothing more than a bullet, player. You know, and come after those people that don't have the resources that you have.
What really frustrates me is it's like the same group of people who will sit here and tell these teachers to just quit are the same type of people who don't want to be told to wear a mask, who don't want to be told to get vaccinated.
Yes.
You know, and so you don't want nobody telling you what to do, but here you are telling teachers that they should just quit, because they want to do virtual learning.
But Georgia, even to that point that we talked about, you know, when we talked about the systemic destruction or the systemic forces that our community has to face, we already know that public education in this country is nowhere near as effective and good as it could be. Now try to put a measurement on public education if the teachers who we do have in there, if 20 or 30% of them quit. See,
That's right.
that harkens me back to the beginning of this school year when my son is supposed to be in a school that's supposed to be okay, taking geometry. And I find out for the first quarter, they don't even have a geometry teacher.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah. I could personally vouch for that. And one thing I know the three of us talk about offline is the education of our children in not only during this pandemic, but in this empire in the first place, because, you know, it's really questionable about whether or not America should be educating the children of the survivors of slavery. But I digress.